people think that you put fertiliser on and it's the fertiliser makes the farm grow. But the soil is a biological system that needs nutrients. It's a factory. It's an amazing factory.
A living factory.
A living factory.
It's sort of a solidified version of seawater, it strikes me.
Yeah, it is. And it's like a motor car. It needs to be topped up with this. It needs to be filled with that and check the tyres and all these other stuff. And people don't. Oh, what's your P level? And going, well, okay.
Your Olsen P.
Yeah, it's me Olsen P. I actually, and really, is what's your retention factor? And why do you need this? And it's been drummed into us over time, and people have not bothered to look or haven't had the opportunity to look. And it was just, I'm obviously scientifically inclined. I enjoyed chemistry and physics and that at school. Not that I did that well because there had to be context. And once you put a context to it, I'm off like a robber's dog.
Yeah.
And so the more I looked at it and the more questions I asked, the more I realised that most people didn't understand what was going on and how it worked. And it's taken me a long time to talk to a huge amount of people and find out how this works, the structural patterns, aeration, biology, and I'm only just scratching the surface to what's really going on.
Give me an example then of a result someone might get back from the S007 and then how they go about managing their soil. Yeah,
well, I guess the thing is the first part, when you get an S007 test, there's so much volcanic activity around the country. So a lot of people see this stuff. So I'm looking at it and going, okay, what's your soluble aluminium? That's one of the first ones I look at because that'll tell you whether it's shut down. And so if you've got aluminium floating about, and then you can go and look at these other indicators like the soluble sulphur. And so like when the aluminium comes up, the biology won't work, so then you don't have any humus, and then you don't have any soluble sulphur, and your nitrogen gets screwed. So then your whole system is shut down, clogged up with aluminium.
Now, at that point, without the knowledge you have, what does your average farmer do and go, well, this is my situation, I'll go do this? What do they do?
Well, first of all, they usually don't identify that process. Hardly any of them have been testing the soluble aluminium.
So what might they think is going on without that knowledge?
Oh, they just need to put some more on.
Okay. Yeah. And it'll be phosphate?
Oh, yeah, more super. Like your Olsen P's not high enough or whatever else. And and it's just a really badly educated process. It's just like, I want to see you some more product. I don't need your product, especially when you got the test. You go, there's the issue there. You've got soluble aluminium, you've got phosphate retention, and when that happens, we know that if there's soluble aluminium, there's no silicon availability. Because the first thing that happens in the soil is that if there's soluble silica and there's free aluminium, they bind. It's a matrimonial match made in heaven in the soil.
Okay, right.
That's the first thing they always do because they like to be the structural component of the soil.
Right.
They house everything. So when you do this, if you get the silicon availability, bang. And so that's one of the ways that we actually see in the test that there's no silicon because there's free aluminium. Okay, it's floating around.
Okay.
Second part we'll see that the availability of calcium is low against the totals in the soil. That's a real indicator. Then I see, okay, what's your carbon levels and what's the availability, and then look at the nitrogen levels and their cycling. And you can say, right, you shut down here and here and here. Got to look at the trace elements just to go with it too, because if we're going to start this factory up, we need all of these things in there. Now, the factory is cheaper than putting more on because once the factory starts to work,
it pulls out what it needs.
It just keeps recycling, and you put this energy into it, you put and the bugs go to work for nothing. They don't cost you. A nitrogen from the bag, from the factory, costs a lot of money. The nitrogen from the cyanobacteria and the bugs in the soil didn't cost you anything. They harvested it out of the atmosphere because you looked after them.
Just course correct me if I've got this wrong. You mentioned calcium, right, as a giveaway too. So when free aluminium's too much in the soil, calcium is unavailable?
That's right.
But it's there but unavailable.
Yeah, it's just sitting there waiting to come.
There's some really interesting parallels there with the human body too, hey? Like the toxicity of aluminium binding to things. Have I got that right?
Totally. I mean, there's nothing different from the soil, the tiniest microbe to us, to what's happening. And, the effect of the aluminium that's showing through in human health now. There's some researchers in England. One guy's just been brilliant. His name, I just forget it now, but he has been testing brains of people that have died with ADHD, bipolar, Alzheimer's, like dementia, and there's one thing in common with every single one of them.
Aluminium.
Yeah, loaded with aluminium.
I knew about the Alzheimer's one that been happening for quite a few years. They had been noticing that. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about aluminium and phosphorus. Can you explain the role of aluminium and its interaction with phosphorus?
Well, it's a shit, to tell you the truth, and it's really blatantly obvious. Like, so if you go to some parts of New Zealand, down around just north of Taupo, there's an area there which is, I haven't seen it before, but that area there is the lowest aluminium volcanic soils I've ever seen.
Wow.
Like, they're way down below 1%. There's no aluminium there.
So it's wonderful.
Well, to a point, there's no trace elements either.
Okay.
So it's got its own problems. But the thing is, the phosphate retention or phosphate availability in that soil is huge because there's no aluminium to bind it. It just gives you a great example of what happens when you've got a soil with aluminium. And that one doesn't, and it just shows, well, there's phosphate for Africa because it doesn't have any aluminium to bind to. So this happens, like you go to different soils with low aluminium, you see there's phosphate availability.
So when they put on rock phosphate, which is the modern version of what...
The superphosphate. If they put on superphosphate.
But that's the replacement of guano, right?
Yes, yeah.
Which was a phosphate.
Yeah.
Now it's a rock phosphate?
Yeah, and it's still called superphosphate, but it comes out of Africa, yeah.
But they've just sort of sneaky changed the recipe. Okay. Sorry, layman perspective on it. But then if they put that on, what happens on their land?
Well, the problem is they don't have phosphate retention, but what they do, because what's happening with the acidity of the phosphate, it buggers up the silicon. So then even though you haven't got much aluminium floating around, you've still got no silicon because the silicon...
So it's still a useless thing to put on?
Oh, totally.
Oh, my God. And, is useless true, or is it having some positive effect to the...
It's positively dangerous.
Okay. But, yeah, okay. But do people who put it on go, well, I'm seeing some benefit?
Well, decreasingly.
Sure.
And more people are just, like, I had some guys at the farm the other day, and they said, threw that stuff out. And even by just stopping, they grew more grass. That's what their comment was. Of course... that's only anecdotal, and farmers don't know their own farms. They really need an expert to come and tell them what to put on.
Yeah.
And so it has a negative effect anyway. And as say that in the book is put there, it's got large quantities of calcium, cadmium, and fluoride. Fluoride strips the calcium out of the body as it does in the soil. And I saw an example of that. Oh, I didn't see it myself, but a farmer told me about how they'd had trouble with excess fluorine in their super, and they put it on the farm, and the cows all got milk fever and fell over.
You're right.
And nobody wants to talk about that sort of stuff. So, these are the sort of dangerous things.
How on earth do they end up with? That's a really toxic chemical.
Well, it's in the rock phosphate. So when they put it through
the fluorine,
yeah,
which is sort of a componentry on the way to calling something fluoride, right?
Yeah, and they harvest it out of there for and sell it as well.
Well, that's the idea with fluoride in toothpaste, is that it's bonding to your teeth to supposedly, quote unquote, protect your teeth because it bonds well with calcium, right?
Yeah, but the problem that they've got is you've got sodium fluoride, which is a single mono, okay?
Yeah.
Calcium fluoride.
Sodium fluoride monofluorophosphate.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah. But now, if the fluoride in our body is calcium fluoride, and it's a two fluorides, one calcium, and it's the only fluorine that should be allowed in the body, full stop. It has an effect on your teeth and on elasticity, in the body. Become incredibly, if you get really tight, you'll be short of calcium.
Keen to dive deeper? Check out our audiobook and EcoFarmer's Discovery on Spotify, or grab our free ebook, The 6 Things You Need to Improve Soil and Farm Profit. Links in the description.